Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff. I want to extend to you guys my warmest regards, my thanks, and my love and care for you guys for supporting me throughout this whole time, and just, wishing you and everybody around you more love, more life, more success. And I want to just extend that thanks to you guys for all that you do for the channel. With that in mind, I wanted to make a bit of a fluff video today. I wanted to make something more along the lines of me, and not necessarily something informative or a help video, or something about a clip or some kind of cool review. I wanted to do something about me. So what better thing to do than to answer the age-old question of, what are your favorite characters in the game? Now, I'm not going to get into characters that aren't in the game, of course, that's for another time, but I am going to talk about the characters, there's about 10 of them, that are my favorite in the game for various reasons. Now, just know that I'm choosing my top 10 based on a variety of factors. For one, there may be characters like Spider-Man, who I really deeply love from the comics, and I grew up watching and I grew up reading about, but unfortunately in this game they're really not well represented, or they don't find a way to be representable in certain game modes, and because of that I really don't have a good opportunity with which to play them, and so because of that they probably won't be on this list. So this list is a combination of both my favorite characters as it stands from the comics and from different factors and their history and their backstory and all that, but also how they play in the game. There is some weight to that because I have to play this game and I want to win as well, so I do end up liking more the characters that make it easier or more fun for me to win. So both of those things go into this list and go into my top 10 selection. So first off, at number 10, Odin, a very new addition, a very recent addition. I was going to say before Volstagg, but I think Odin takes the cake here. But judging by just how new he is, I don't think I had, to be honest, 10 favorite characters in the game before Odin, so I probably only had about 8 or 9. Now, I can say reasonably that I really like Odin. And why do I like Odin? Well, obviously he's a badass. His damage is insane. His animations are super cool. He's got this amazing blue sword. He jumps up into the air and he just feels so substantive when you're playing as him. He's swinging. He's got these huge piercing waves of attacks. He's got the bubble. He just feels like a god when you play as him, and he's got the cape and he's got the rad beard. And so just everything about the character just screams epic, and because of that and the gold armor and everything, he's just number 10 on this list. Number 9, a character that recently got a lot of love in the game, Black Bolt. Now, I love Black Bolt because of his backstory, not so much because of how he's played in the game. Not only his backstory, but also his powers, his mutant Terrigen Mist granted abilities that he doesn't really use that often in the books and in the comics and stuff, but just everything about him, the fork, and just his attitude, his demeanor, what he stands for, his morals, the way he handles himself as a leader, I really like that. And Netmarble has found, I would say, a pretty satisfying way of displaying his skill in the game and his power without him being like broken and too strong, or at this point without being too weak. He's kind of in a comfortable medium, and that's why he's one of my favorites to play. Number 8 on the list, very similar to number 9, another god or another heir or whatever you want to call them, royalty, Thor. Now, granted, I don't have a lot of experience reading the newer stuff with Unworthy Thor, but the original Thor I do have a lot more time spent with, and I do know a lot about him, and I just really like the character. He can be a bit arrogant at times, he can be a bit annoying, but the Mjolnir, the lightning, the flying, the beard, the sibling rivalry, everything about that I can relate to. Some of those things I can relate to, like one of those things I can relate to, but all those things, and the wicked animations with all the lightning being called down, and he's the god of thunder for a reason. Just make him, one of my favorites, and he's been one of my favorites for a long time, so that's why he's on this list at number 8. Number 7 on the list is actually the only female to make this list, and I will explain why that is right now. Wasp is played in the MCU movies by Evangeline Lilly. You guys don't know, but since I discovered Evangeline Lilly as an actress watching Lost when I was younger, I fell in love. She's, gorgeous, and so to see her playing Wasp, or playing who will eventually become Wasp in the next AntMan movie, or maybe in a solo movie, who knows, just filled me with joy to play this character. The original model kind of looks like her a little bit. This one, well, anyways, neither of them really look like her, but it's not too bad. And Wasp is actually a super fun character to play. She's not overpowered, she's not imbalanced, she's fair. You have low damage, but you have high utility and high survivability on all of her skills. And she's got lots of team play aspects like Swarm Shield, Encouragement, and Winsome Wasp. And because of those reasons, it's really fun to kind of tactfully put her on different teams and try and construct, a very fighting, venerable juggernaut, whether you're playing against someone in Timeline or you're trying to defend in something like Shadowlands King of the Hill. So because of those reasons, and because Evangeline Lilly is an absolute babe, Wasp comes in at number 7. Number 6 on the list is dear to my heart for a kind of an obscure, kind of a strange reason. Corvus reminds me a lot of the Necromancer in Diablo 2, and I played that game like crazy growing up, so I just naturally gravitated to someone who revives, someone who summons clones, and someone who has this kind of like dark, mystical, but kind of evil vibe to him. Now, it's not exactly the same, and there's not as much of a bone motif or poison motif going on with Corvus as the Necromancer had, but I just love the fact that he revives. I love the fact that his clones are the Outriders, and I really like Corvus's role in the comics as kind of like Thanos' right-hand man, so to speak, and just his overall demeanor is very like scary, but in a genuine way, and I really like that. And so I really like the character, and he's super fun to play with. All of his skills, I like casting, and I like watching their effects and everything, even Boogeyman, which is probably the worst one, even that one. So Corvus, you're number 6. Number 5 is the one that I imagine people would have guessed to be number 1 when they started watching this video, Ronin. Now, if I had made this video about 6 months to a year ago, yes, Ronin would have been my favorite. However, Ronin is no longer in that place solely because I cannot find enough places. I can't find as many avenues as I used to be able to find to actually play as Ronin. And that does take a hit, and that does bring the character down a few notches, because if I can't play as the character, then they're not that fun in the game for me. Prior to a lot of the updates that made Ronin kind of obsolete, Ronin was a juggernaut. He had the best leadership in the game. He was one of the best tanks in the game. He had tons of CC, which hasn't changed, and he was just overall a very, very good character. But then Loki got the clones, and then, that's history. So Ronin, even with the green suit, you're at number 5. Number 4 on the list, the Mad Titan himself, Thanos. Now, after reading the Infinity series, after reading all the stuff with Thanos, I can really appreciate how deep and how complicated of a villain he is. He's not just your typical bad guy with the bad guy routine. He's much deeper than that, and that immediately made me gravitate towards him. Not to mention the Infinity Gauntlet, which is badass as fuck. Not to mention all of his skills, which are awesome, except maybe Cosmic Shift. It kind of sucks. But all of the other ones animate excellently. They feel so cool and so powerful when you're playing as them. His passive is random. Sometimes it helps you, sometimes it doesn't trigger, and you're just, yelling at your screen, hoping that it will suddenly save you. And that's kind of like Thanos. He's doing well, he's killing everybody, and then suddenly something happens and everything goes wrong. So Thanos, for all that you do in the game, you're number 4. These top 3 are here for me because of how they play in the game and how I feel when I play with them. So these top 3 are much more indicative of the game than they are of their comic book counterparts. So I wanted to make that differentiation a little bit, and I'll explain why with the 3 of them, starting with number 3, Moon Knight. Moon Knight, to me, obviously is as close as we're going to get to Batman, unless Netmarble makes a DC version of this game. you can do that, Netmarble. It is still on the table, I'm assuming. But because of that, and because of my undying love for the Dark Knight, Moon Knight immediately became a character that I wanted to play as. And despite the fact that I don't know a lot about Moon Knight from the comics, admittedly I'm not a diehard fan, he is very cool from everything that I've read and everything that I've been told by you guys and by fans and from the internet, and he plays really, really well. He's super fun to play, fast, jumps around, tactic. You know, he's tactful, he's got a lot of iframes, and you can face tank, but if you want to have the best result with him, if you want to have the most satisfying wins, you do have to be creative, and you do have to throw strategy into the mix, especially with Extreme Alliance Battle, especially with the World Boss Invasions when you're sharing HP and all that kind of stuff. So for those reasons, and specifically for how he plays in the game, it's so fun to watch him just zip around on that, you know, Batarang, whatever, pulley system thing. I can't remember what it's called now. Moon Knight is number 3. Number 2 on the list, AntMan. Now, I know I've been giving AntMan a lot of shit lately as a speed character. He has fallen off in terms of his usability because of the fact that his damage is so low, and dodge has become less of a priority now in general. Before, when he was first released as a tier 2, AntMan was hands down the best tier 2 character. Now, not so much. Damage is king, and iframes are king, but you need to have both, and AntMan only has iframes. Because of that, he's taken a huge hit, but I still try to find ways to use him because he's so much fun to play as. His animations are some of the best in the game, and it just feels so rewarding when you can pull off a win with AntMan. Despite the fact that he basically becomes invincible for 20 seconds with no way of stopping him unless you have ignore dodge, you've spec'd specifically for that, AntMan feels like David against every Goliath, both literally and figuratively. Because of that, and all the animations and all the coolness of the character and the swag of you know, Scott Lang and all the other AntMans out there, you're number 2, baby. Love you. Number 1, if you haven't guessed it, guys, what are you doing with your lives? You should be checking out the live stream. You should know by now. The answer is always Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange comes at number 1 on this list to the surprise of some, but not all. Doctor Strange, when he was introduced to this game, and since then has become the number 1 badass bar none, and it's hard to not love a badass. All of his skills look amazing visually. They do insane damage. He teleports around like he's fucking Neo and Goku at the same time. He got invulnerability with Sorcerer Supreme. He's got the Eye of Agamotto. Look how detailed. He's even got the sling ring in his belt. How detailed the costume is, the uniform. Just a fantastic character. I love his backstory. I love his origin story. I mean, aside from what they did in the movie, which is great, the stuff in the comic books is even better and richer. The stuff that they're doing now with Doctor Strange as well is awesome. He's got a great history, and he's got a great list of cast around him. And he's made me like characters like Baron Mordo more than I did. So, you know, a character like that can only be at number 1 if they're going to be on this list at all. And so, gotta give it up. Number 1 on the list, the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange. Anyways, guys, that's the list for my top 10 favorite characters. Of course, I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say, who your top 10 are. It actually took me a long time to actually craft this list and think really deeply and honestly about who I love to play and also who I love from the comics. So I'm really curious what you guys have to say. Please let me know in the comments, and I hope you're having a great happy holidays. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.